are rolling with Jacob Israel. Thank you for coming back again.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I'm so excited. I think this is such an important topic too, because we're talking about the community,
Yeah, for
and
sure. I agree. I've decided I was watching some of your videos last night to prep for this, and I love just swimming around in the person's stuff before I have an interview, so it's just all right there on my head. But I
that's a very
decided
goofy pool. That's a goofy pool to be because my stuff is all over the place. It's entertaining and encouraging at least.
and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. But I decided that I think of you as the spiritual speculator. Like, those wildcatters in Texas, like the oil guys.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like you're hitting oil field after oil field, like
I'm
you're
getting
hitting
yeah,
them, you're
thanks
hitting
be
them.
to God.
And I'm like, he I know he calls himself a meathead and he says, I'm not a prophet, I'm a writer. Um, but you really are good at seeing patterns
Mm,
and seeing where they're going to go,
yeah,
and very accurately.
yeah.
It's awesome.
It's
I was
eerie.
watching a
Yeah.
video that you did about a year ago,
Uh-huh.
and you had Russell Brand on the
Right.
very front of it,
Yeah, it's
and
almost like almost predicted it. It's crazy.
it's almost
Yeah.
exactly a year
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
time that it happened.
1 year, 11 days. There's been this thing. I don't know, 1111 is kind of a big thing on my channel,
Uh-huh.
but for whatever reason, the numbers 111, like Prince Charles III, I've been seeing that everywhere. This sounds a little weird, but it was just interesting because it was like 1 year and I 10 months and like 11 days or something in between. And it's just strange that you see these numbers pop up again and again, which is interesting because you start to think, well, maybe there's something to this simulation theory. Maybe there's something to, things being, our reality being coded. Who knows? But it sure is weird. It is weird. And it's like lately it's been happening more and more. It's like, oh,
And
here's another
faster and
one.
faster. It is like
Yeah.
birth pangs for sure.
It's
It's
very
it's
interesting.
it's wild. But your prophecy, that you don't claim, is pretty darn amazing. And I understand that
Yeah.
a prophet is 100% accurate. But I also know that there's people that you can look back and you can really respect what they've brought. And so one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, because I feel like this is really important in the entire umbrella of a truther.
Mhm.
What do you want to bring people in your channel? Like,
Oh, right.
what is
Yeah.
your objective? What is your goal?
My goal is pretty simple because because of my past, I didn't have the easiest upbringing. My mother was very young when she had me. I didn't have a father. We lived in the projects. It seemed like my life was very difficult. And then I was very sick from about 15 on, in and out of the hospital, picked on, abuse, all this stuff, right? But all along the way, I always had this idea that there was more,
Mhm.
so like my faith always carried me through. I used to go to church by myself because my mother wasn't, a religious person. I used to go to the church. I used to go to the Catholic church down the street. I'd just walk down, but I would never listen. I would always I'd have, these daydreams of like, one day I'm going to serve you. And one day, like, because I was a young child and it was like, I wanted to be kind of like a superhero for God.
Mhm.
And because God was always there for me. So all along my life, I've always tried to lift people up because I just kind of believe that if I lived a good life, if I treated people better, then I mean, even people that are horrible to you, I just believe that that was the right thing to do. And so, ironically, I ended up doing some pretty interesting things. I always had this idea, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then it would happen. I'd tell people, I said, oh, I'm going to be the head writer for World Wrestling. And people would say, you're really a weirdo. You're selling orthopedic furniture at a store.
You're a
How's
spiritual
that going to happen? Yeah.
speculator.
And and then that faith would lead me, and then I'd ended up at the WWE, and it was very strange to be there. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to work for Christian TV. I didn't know why. I just kind of had that desire, and then God brings me there, and then I'm the head writer, and and I didn't fit anywhere, and I wasn't happy anywhere. It was like I felt like God brought me from one place to another place to another place to
To
kind of
keep
set me up so that,
refining.
yeah, refining me and showing me that, like, WWE, there's elements of it that's just incredibly corrupt, but same in Christian TV, so it's like, no matter where God brought me, what he showed me was there aren't a lot of sincere people. Maybe they think they are. Maybe they desire to be, maybe I'm just misjudging them, but it doesn't, you look at their fruit. That's how a tree is known, by its fruit. So the
Amen.
stuff that I do, the stuff that you got to look at my life's work, how I've been. I'm not the perfect man, but you can look at the tree and say, hey, if this tree is doing some pretty horrible things in their 30s, it's a good call by 50. You really have to have your life completely
Amen.
turned around. It's like, so once the tree is producing good fruit, hopefully. So I started my YouTube channel. Ironically, Jacob Israel from the scriptures, he worked for Laban, who
Sure.
was a sheep shearer. He was like, he'd make money off of the flock. He didn't feed the flock. So I went to work for, ironically, this television network, Christian television network, where they made money off of the flock. They were the biggest, largest Christian network in the world. But I was a shepherd. I was a writer. And while I was there, I kind of put, like Jacob did with Laban, he kind of put his rods in the waters for the sheep, because he made a deal with, because I wasn't happy there, but I said, you know what, give me all the people that you don't want. Like literally, I wanted to reach out to the people that they'd turn their backs on and they would condemn and say, oh, you're not worthy. And, I wanted the speckled sheep. So I started a website, jacobisrael.com. And I started sharing just, I'd write essay after essay after. I have like thousands of pages that I've like kind of dug into the scriptures, because when I was around 30 or so, well, when the twins were hit by the whatever, that was really kind of my big awakening. And then it was like one thing after another. So really my desire always was to lead people not to me, because I know I don't have it all figured out. Like even like I said to you, when you sent me over the title, I said, wow. And I said, that's going to trigger some people, because my initial gut reaction is, who am I to say who you shouldn't be listening to? Like, I don't want that to be, and that's not our motivation.
And for clarity, we aren't doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We've got another objective. Yes.
But it's interesting, because it gets you to, question really, who can you trust? So I wanted to lead everybody to God. I said, and that was the thing, Jacob had a well, and Jesus said this when the woman was there, the Samaritan woman who he wasn't supposed to talk to, was like, why don't you give me some water? And the woman says, oh no, it's too deep. And it's this, that, and the other thing, and made a lot of excuses. But if you keep going to this well, and that was Jacob's well, you'll thirst again. So I say on the channel, but if you leave with Christ, because Christ sits at this well, I say it on my channel. I say, if you come here, you want to drink, you want to be inspired, you want to look at the weird, crazy, amazing news, and then have me kind of speculate how it's going to turn into something that's going to affect your life in hopefully a positive manner, well, then come to the well, come get a sip. But if you leave here without Christ, without going to God, without asking for the truth, no matter what the cost, it was like, that was my motivation, was I wanted people to ask for more. I wanted people to go to God, because I knew that if I could just get them to do that, I've done a good job.
100%.
I've done a good job, 100%. But I also understand that I must present myself in a better way. Like I'm a very funny guy, and I have a sense of humor, and there's things that people post that I know I could make go viral, and I could make, because I know how to write, and I know how to get people hooked, but I feel like I need to be an example.
It's incongruent.
It's sad that I have to feel like I need to be the example, because, but this is kind of who I am. So I try to be myself, and I try to understand that not everybody is where I am. So I'm not going to, like what I used to do back in the days, if someone would attack me, I would immediately, respond to that, and then correct what they got wrong. And almost like, I didn't want to publicly call them out, but almost like, hey, listen. But then when I got older, I realized you can't help people that way. So now people that, and it's ironic, because they're always like, I watched you for years. You helped me open my eyes to the Lord. And now I go to this church, and, it's like, so you're saying that I helped you, but now you're calling me a Freemason? Like people say weird things. It's just very strange to me. So now I reach out to them in private, and I try to, I feel like there's no shepherds. I feel like the harvest is here and the laborers are few. I feel very alone out here. That's the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah. I
Um,
understand that 100%. I also think though that like my daughter had made a comment about how the information age is over when COVID started. And she said there's so much out there that's not true that we're no longer getting information that's accurate. And she was correct. But what I feel like happened in that was it is that when somebody finally hits that rock bottom, they have to become friends with truth.
mm,
So, my next question for you is, are you or do you consider yourself a truther?
I don't understand what, that term has come to mean. Like when you hear that, there's a very negative connotation to it, but there's also a lot of pride attached to it. I'm somebody who wants the truth no matter what the cost. But labels, that's the thing, is I don't quite fit.
I knew you would answer that way, and I agree with you. It is my belief that anyone that holds on to that label might have some pride issues.
Right.
And I think there's a humility that comes with saying, I am human, I am a liar. There is not a human on
Mm.
this earth that isn't
Yeah.
a liar. So what
Yeah.
we're dealing with, instead of looking at people like, here's a channel of a truther,
Right.
or here's this is a reliable source, for us to go back to remembering that every human is a spectrum. And
Right.
so I wrote down the 5 things, or the 5 reasons people lie. And 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm sorry. Yeah, 5. Okay. So the first one is to avoid punishment. And see, that's what the back of your shirt is. The back of your
Oh
shirt
yeah.
is,
Yeah. No
and
matter
that's
what
the
the
biggest
cost.
reason I think people do lie, is I think
Scary
there's a
prayer.
lot of cowards. There's a lot of cowards. They don't want to stand in what's going to come at them if they tell the truth. Now,
Right.
I understand that you don't throw pearls before swine, and that's another conversation. So then the next reason is to gain advantage.
Right.
So avoid punishment, gain advantage. The third one is to protect self or others, which
Right.
is a huge female trait. This is a woman, and guys will face that. Women will tell their friend, oh, they'll tell them a lie just to make them feel better.
Mm.
To fit into society, right? We see this happening a lot with a lot of different agendas. I'm not going to say them out loud.
Right.
And then the final one is to maintain privacy. And
Mm.
so especially for maintaining privacy, I completely get that. But let's say that we were gonna look at some of the truthers. If you're giving people advice on how to discern truth,
Mm.
how would you apply those 5? And do you agree with them?
Well, I think it. Oh yes, I do. I do. I think that was very well thought out. I think it all boils down to fear. No matter how you look at it. And see, it's hard to be in a world. We came into this world, and it's run by the father of all lies, right? This is the father of all lies, the principalities of the air. And there's no truth in that devil. So there's no truth in the father of this world. If there's no truth in it, and even in scripture, you have this picture of the dragon, that the flood that comes out of the dragon's mouth to destroy that child. It's a picture of the Christ that's in us, kind of killing off your faith. And how do you, and if Christ is the power and wisdom of God, and that your word, O Lord, is truth. So if you have the truth within you, and then you have a dragon that's only the father of all lies, meaning whatever it creates is a lie, the lie is trying to extinguish the truth that's in you. Hence fake news, right? Fake news. And knowing that right now the time is so short, because I really feel like we're entering into this is a whole other thing. It's like it's coming to an end, and it's coming to a new beginning, and I'm really super excited about it. But while I'm excited about it, the world is really getting bad, and the enemy will say of truth, lies, working overtime. So what I did about a year ago was I've been actively in my faith. I try to put my faith out there, because if we have faith size of a mustard seed, you could say to the sycamore tree, be cast into the sea. You could say to this mountain, be cast into the sea. So what I started to do was I started to like speak out my faith. And I
Awesome.
even created a hashtag, if they be corrupt. And so part of the reason why I did the video about Russell Brand, and I also did the same thing, by the way, with Mr. Tate, where I did a video and I told everybody on air, I think it's time that the Lord show the world who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, the next day was when the news broke about him, and here we are. And people are still defending a person
Oh,
as
100%.
mantras, because the world, and can you blame them? Because they've had nothing but lies. So they need a better example. But where is the example?
I think it's also seek and you shall find. People aren't knocking for truth; they're knocking for the dopamine hit.
Right.
And so when you don't have congruence within you, you can't see truth.
Right.
And that's part of the problem. Is once you have enough darkness in you, the scales are there. And so in order to get the scales to drop, you got to increase the amount of truth in your life.
Yeah.
And I think
Paul,
this,
go
ahead.
No, it's funny. You said scales over your eyes. That was Paul's big problem, right? Saul's problem before he became Paul. He was blinded, and it was like scales were over his eyes. And then he was set straight, because the prophet came to him and brought him to the street called Straight. I'm going to set you straight, because you're persecuting, you're killing Christians. That's basically what you do. If you're a religious man who's serving the God of this world, who's a liar, you think that you're the Pharisee of all Pharisees, but you realize it's all dung when your eyes are open to Christ. And you know what the scales are in Scripture? Pride. It's written, I think it's in the book of Ezekiel and the book of Ecclesiastes. I think the scales of the Leviathan are his pride. So the pride has to fall away before you can see again. So it's interesting. You say the darkness, the ignorance, that was his problem. He was ignorant. He didn't know any better.
Sure.
And it was his pride. So that was like so.
That's great. I mean,
cool
awesome,
that you said
awesome. That. Yeah. And I was thinking too, one of the things that I think would be really important is for us to go through an example. And so I wrote down, because Russell Brand's his "So This Happened" video was only like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes long. It wasn't very long. So I wrote down some of the things. I want to get comments from you, and then I'll comment on. But I want people to kind of keep this formula in mind. You have content. This is a math equation. And if you subtract from that content the creator's bias, their trauma, and all that they're bringing that isn't truth, then you have truth. And so what we have to do is we have to be good at discerning which things are incongruent, like you were saying, the fruit, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you the very first sentence that he said when he was saying, "So this happens." The very first sentence he said is, "This channel exists to critique, attack, and undermine the news and all its corruption." Yeah. When you hear that,
oh, you're going there, Carmen. You're going there.
But I want you to say, when you hear that, do you hear any lies?
Yes, I do. If I'm being honest, you know what I hear right off the bat is I hear him exonerating himself of his past. And even like the flippant, "So this happened." I mean, my goodness gracious. I'd be devastated. I'm sure he's devastated. But I mean, it's not good. Look, it's not looking good for him. And I think that humility is the best. I mean, it's clear he's messed up. But how did he get so big? How did he get so influential? It's like if I said this in my show, because I don't want to, because he could be a good man. Since then,
spectrum.
A lot more
there's
stuff
a spectrum on everyone.
Yeah. There's a lot more stuff coming out about him. And it's all very It's all very salacious. But you want him to be like I was rooting for him in the beginning because he was saying things that I had to find clever ways around. But then I started to see him. I started to really look at the fruit. Like, what is he showing us? And that's when I started to question him. And I started to question, the idea that, they're giving us our heroes, and our heroes are really psychotic and narcissistic.
They're fascinating and a big fat dopamine hit.
Yeah. And they're like, you can't look away. Listen, I don't know.
No, I love you're so nice. Okay, so you answered the question.
Yeah,
and
I think he's lying.
I think he's lying.
I think he's probably a plant, is what I think. I mean, that's what I think.
Right.
I hate to say
these
that.
are all opinions. These are opinions.
It's just an opinion.
But I want people to hear this because this is really important. When I first started this, I asked you, why does your channel exist? And your answer, in a nutshell, was to turn people to God, to to lift them up. You said lift. So do you see what I'm saying with his channel? So his channel exists
to attack, tear down,
to attack, critique. And here's the thing.
I know, you're brilliant. That was brilliant.
I'm not
now
brilliant.
I see where you're going.
But what I'm trying to show people is it's easy. And then you trumped me because you said, oh, well, just look at the title. So this happened. How flippant that is.
Nothing. Like it's nothing.
I mean,
these people and their stories mean nothing.
This is gold. People, listen to this. Hear it. Because if you can even just look at that. Okay, so can we go to one more?
Sure.
Okay, the next
one. I'm enjoying this.
Okay, so the next one is I received extremely disturbing letters and emails listing extremely egregious and aggressive attacks that I absolutely refute. Any comment on that one?
I mean, you hear this and you think to yourself, if you're saying you absolutely refute something, you're saying without a shadow of a doubt, it did not happen.
Perfect. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And then I want you to go back to, we're going to go to the end where he says, we are obviously going to look into this because of its serious nature. Would you say that if
we're going to look into it?
Do you see what I'm saying?
If I absolutely refute, there's nothing to look into. It didn't happen.
And that's what I would tell my son. If my son came to me and told me that, I would say, ignore him.
Yeah.
Why would you even address him?
Yeah.
And so I think that, and this is why I wanted to give this example. And I love that you trumped me on just the title because I'm telling you, it's that obvious.
Yeah.
It's that quick.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he doesn't say brilliant things. And I'm not saying he doesn't say them brilliantly. He has a fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great performer.
He has charisma. He has charisma.
He's a guru. He's a guru.
Well, I mean, we could go into, but I mean,
he says he's a prophet too. Yeah.
Well, he might.
I mean, he says these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making it up.
But those are things too. Okay. So pull what you can from somebody. Somebody will come to me and go, what do you think of Tucker Carlson? What do you think of this person? What do you think of that person? And I'll just sit back and wait. And then I'll send them, this is what he said. What do you think of that?
Right. Yeah.
And here's the other thing is tell everyone how often we get intel. I have a tiny little channel. I have people giving me information.
I know
that I cannot bring forward.
Your channel is not tiny. It's not tiny.
I'm just saying compared to, Russell Brand or Tucker or you.
Well, you see, but here's the thing. What are the quality people? Think about the quality people, right? So you're probably getting people that are more driven toward, it's all, they have to give the multitude their dog whistle. Like as a friend of mine said, he says the whole thing's a dog whistle to direct us and steer us. And I thought that was pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing is becoming that, and we're justifying terrible behavior.
Yeah.
He was 30 something. He was in a relationship with a girl who was 16. That's just weird to me. Just weird to me. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
but he also, I mean, I was reading Wikipedia, who knows how real that is, but I was just looking at some of the stuff, and he had a horrific childhood,
Yeah.
and was abused, and talked about all these crazy things in his book. And of course, I've just recently heard that he had some, like, people were saying that he abused pets in his book, even though he was younger, and that's an indicator of, some really
Narcissism.
bad stuff. Absolutely.
Mm.
The way I always look at it is it doesn't matter who you are. There are pieces of you that are lies. I have lied to maintain privacy.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. I have
sure.
lied to not hurt someone's feelings only because I know they can't carry it. So
Yeah, yeah.
don't throw
Oh, it was
pearls
so
before
good.
swine.
It was such a great one. I
I,
know.
I'm actually really good at sharing truths with a lot of grace and mercy in
Right.
private.
Yeah.
And so don't ask me if you don't want the answer is what I tell
You don't
people.
want the truth,
That's
right?
actually how I got my job in production, was I was telling people what I really thought of their scripts. And
Oh, good.
so
Good for you.
I got a reputation for, like, she will tear it apart. And
Yeah.
so that just is one of those things that happened. So at what point do you go, okay, there's kind of a flippant attitude, or here's a comment that tells you that what he is existing for is to critique and attack, or whatever, that's counter to what you want in your life. At what point do you put enough dots together that you know that you have what you have? Does that make sense?
Right.
How do you discern that?
It's there's something to be said for really trusting your intuition. Like if you have a like I can't tell you how many times I've had a bad feeling about something and I didn't listen to that feeling, and I get that feeling a lot when I watch when I'll watch a video, or when I'll see, like, there are certain people that say things that I know is so wrong and so, like, psychically damaging to so many people. Like there's a big thing in the Republican Party, which is, we're done turning the other cheek. That's We're done turning the other. I don't know about you, but I'm done. And how you could take and twist the love of God into being something that's brutal and forceful, and you know, it's that, it goes back to that whole argument. Well, there was a time when Jesus said, bring a sword. He didn't say sword. He said, now sell them and get yourself a couple of knives. They only had two. They had more than 12 people there. There was only two knives between them, and it was knife for cutting meat, and it was a utility knife because they were going to go on the road, because they were going to be stalked and hunted. So it was like, right now, you better go get yourself like a Swiss Army knife because you're going to be in the woods. And it wasn't like, go get yourself an M16 right now. And, that's not what, but they take it, a God of love who says, turn your other cheek to your enemy, and they'll twist it into something. And so when I see it, I feel it inside. So I almost don't need to know really where they're coming from to know where they're coming from when it seems like it's leading you to a place of hate. So
Beautiful.
once again, is this something that's, encouraging people to love and to forgive? Or is it something that's, driving people further and further away?
Right. And that's
No,
why I
I
think
got
it's important to look at why he created his channel. And
right,
and
right.
let's look at it.
And the timing of it, because, you look at, he came on the scene right when the virus of the crown hit, and it was like, that was it. And things that, and then people got more and more emboldened by him, and they lost all their channels. They lost all their channels, and they lost all their, he's like, his monetization, this guy's a multi-millionaire.
Right.
He's
So
doing
let me ask
okay.
you a question then. Do you believe that there is a pyramid, and there's people at the top of the pyramid running things, and that there's, do you believe that that person at the top of the pyramid is smart enough to have a second layer
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I
or a
wouldn't doubt
third
there's
layer?
probably third, fourth. Yeah, I would, it's little things like, I with the whole Mr. Jones thing, him, right? The guy he wears a NASA shirt all the time. And
AJ.
he's another one that, like, you want to root and you want to cheer for these people, but then you listen to them, and it's easy to tell that these things are going to happen. Like when Kanye came to visit
Yeah.
with him and he had the NASA hat on, I
Yeah.
said something crazy is going to happen. I told everybody. I
Yeah.
said he's going in there, and that's when that whole thing with and
Right.
right now you got Canada celebrating him.
Right.
It's a very weird day that we're in. There must be a massive psychological operation
Well,
being
I'm
poured out on
doing
us.
an entire series with Cheryl Beck on the Monarch programming, and we've already done 4, and it's based on the Greenbaum speech. She estimates that 30 million people have been programmed.
Oh God, I wouldn't doubt it. Think about how many people will turn on their neighbor, because they wouldn't wear a
Their own
mask, or
family, their own
their own family. My
family.
mother
I,
wouldn't visit me. She wouldn't visit me, but that was
right.
an excuse because I know her. She just didn't want to visit me. But she said that you're the irresponsible thing and this and that and the other thing. I had a feeling. You know what I mean? And it was like, with this one, I trusted it. Then I started to look at the fruit. I said, let me give it a sec and let me take a look and see how they're handling it. And then when they started doing all that crazy stuff, it's obvious this is not for our well-being. In my head, I said, obviously it's probably for greed, probably for profit. Maybe they think the best, maybe they're hoping for the best, but there's way too many coincidences.
Well, and you look at Russell Brand, he increased he's absolutely increased his subscription base.
Multi-millions.
Yeah.
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 So it's kind of interesting.
His best friend.
I do, I do like how you took the 5 and you turned them into 1, because really you were correct. If you want to avoid punishment, you're afraid. If you
Right.
want to gain advantage, you're afraid that you can't trust that
Right.
you will gain advantage without lying.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to protect others, you're afraid if you don't have faith in them, you're afraid
Right.
of them. If you want to fit into society, you're afraid that you're not enough
Right.
in the eyes of God. And if you want to maintain privacy, you're afraid that someone can get you when you're actually protected.
Oh yeah. What a way to sleep. Listen, I got to tell you,
That's like boom, mind blowing.
and if people could apply that to their life and understand it, so that when that urge comes to lie, why am I lying?
Yeah.
Why don't I step out in faith and be more honest, be more sincere? I did that in my relationship with my wife in the beginning. I had a lot of insecurity.
I love your honesty.
I've had so many people in my life, abandon me, disown me, all of these things. And I know my heart. I know what kind of a man I am. So of course, after my first wife took off and took everything, and I just kept the kids. I just, luckily all that's been forgiven. She's in California. I got to raise my children. But I've been abandoned so much that when I met Danielle, well, this is, my God's given me this amazing, this treasure of a woman. And I was so scared. Oh, you don't love me. How many years did I say, you don't love me? You don't love me.
God bless her.
And, right. God bless her. I always said to her, I said, thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get lies in my head because they've been formed. The lies and it's fear. If we could get over our fear, because what's in fear? Torment. There's torment in fear. And God has not given us the spirit of fear. So when we get into that mindset, it's a lie. If it's a lie, it's not God. It can't harm you.
We're on the wrong side of the team. We're on the wrong side of the field. We're definitely.
You can let yourself in and out of those gates of hell. You got power over the gates. You can let yourself into the hell of fear, or you can let yourself out.
Yeah.
That's the power that Christ gave us to trample on scorpions, right? To smash those snake heads, lies, liars, and lies. Get rid of them. The truth sets you free.
Yes. And okay, so let's say you find someone, and let's use Tucker Carlson for an example, because he is so loved.
I hung out with him.
Oh, you did?
Years ago this is so strange, at my 20th high school reunion, where I went back to the high school where everybody beat me up and everything else. I was shaking. I used to get so nervous. He was, I guess, at that place, and he was maybe starting over in New York or something.
Oh,
But we ended up hanging out all night and talking for hours.
wow.
Fun guy, interesting guy.
Lovable.
He had the bow tie on. But I always find it strange. I'm like, like the Lord has put me in front of a lot of interesting people.
Hmm.
And I'm always curious as to how God saw fit. And now it's like I see Tucker and I understand the power he wields.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's a sword,
Right.
you know.
Right. But that gets back to, if I get the intel I get with my small sphere, and you get the intel that you get in your bigger one, and imagine the intel that they have.
Oh my
And that's the
goodness.
part
Right.
that I do get a little frustrated with. To have access
Mhm.
to truths that other people don't, but to still hold some sort of party line, basically says what? What does it
Says
say?
that it says, um, I said he was going to be the face of Twitter.
Mhm.
Okay. Before he was fired, I said he's going to be the face of Twitter. Then
Mhm.
when he was fired and let go him and Don Lemon, I said he's going to be the face of Twitter. Put it out. Just knew it. You know why? Because there's going to be this whole thing about legacy media, because everything's going online.
Yes.
So they have to find a way to cleverly bring it in. And here it is. It's a Trojan horse.
Mhm.
Here it is. Oh, you're getting a free speech guy. He's got a free. And what does he do? I'm going to have an hour-long interview with Mr. Tate.
And his
That's what
brother.
I'm going to do with my great big platform.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Well, and that's the part. So this is what I would really encourage people. Hear what Jacob is saying. Somebody that has that kind of access, that kind of platform,
Right.
and the personality that you credit him with,
Mm-hmm.
he does not have. Because if
Right.
he did, that's not who he would highlight.
Right.
Would you have him on?
People. Oh God, no. No, I mean, if that's not true. I shouldn't say that.
Okay, because I was
would
going to say
have him
I
on,
would, but
and
I
I
would
would say, why
question
did you
him.
have people tattoo your name? Why? I've seen enough videos of this guy. You got to remember, I got attacked. I lost 1,000 subs on the video I did about Tate when he was in his heyday.
Yeah.
Everybody
Men
was
love
loving this
him.
guy,
Men love
and they
him.
still love him. Candace Owens just had him on. This is nuts that they're holding water for somebody that's
Yeah. But
terrible.
Candace is another one. Like, I didn't know her history, and Tree of Logic came and visited me, and she shared that she used to be a liberal, and she used to literally have a website that doxed people, no matter how many
She
children, no
doesn't.
matter
It
where they
doesn't seem
lived.
like she comes from a good place.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't seem that
so,
way.
yeah. And so, and this is what, do I still watch Candace? Yeah, if she has
No, no.
someone on. Every once in a while I do.
Yeah.
And same with Tucker. I still watch, like, he had Ken Paxton on from Texas. I watched
Mhm.
it.
Right.
I'm going to pull um I'm going to pull the truth out of whatever's there.
Yeah.
And that's what I think we have to begin doing, is let the Holy Spirit lead us to truth. Let truth come to us. It
Right.
actually will come to you. Does it
Oh,
not
you
come
seek it.
to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so show people, if you don't mind, sharing some ways that truth has come to you other than spiritually, like the Holy Spirit just speaking to you. But how has truth come to you in ways that have kind of blown your mind?
Well,
If you have an
oh
example.
gosh, I never had a voice in my head. I get ideas. And I'm telling you, I'll pray. Like, I go to the gym. I get a lot of my inspiration at the gym. And the reason I go to the gym so much, people don't know this. I have something called Crohn's disease and something called ankylosing spondylitis. Ankylosing spondylitis is a really bad arthritis. You're in pain all the time. And you turn out to be all like hunchbacked and all scary looking. When I was a child, that was my greatest fear, was that one day I would look. So here the Lord gives me a disease.
Right.
And then they're like, you're going to be this, you're going to be on disability. So I did some research. And instead of doing all the biologics and all the radiation and all the other garbage that they were going to pollute me with, like they did when I had Crohn's and I was in and out of the hospital, I did the right thing. Natural means, better diet, and I exercise nonstop. That's like the key, is moving. There's an expression in the AS community. It's if you snooze, you fuse.
But
right?
everyone, I believe everyone's like that. You guys just have a bigger effect if you
Sure,
don't.
everything
Yeah.
atrophies. Everything atrophies. So I'll go and I'll pray and I'll say, oh, teach me what I got to do now. What's the next show? I got nothing, Lord. I do this while I'm doing cardio, and like it's almost always I'll get like I won't be paying attention and I'll be doing a set and then I'll just get a random thought. It'll just pop up, like with Russell Brand. I forgot I did a video on that anniversary.
Right.
It was just like a thought. This is the second time that Russell's been brought up. You should address this. I'm like, I don't really want to address it. And then it was like, well, maybe you did a show. I go back, I do the show, and then I add the dates up and I'm going, I got to do the show. So, but God shows up in everything that I do and everything that everybody does. You just have
Of
to,
course.
you have to look for it. You have to look for it. And
that's where I think that the truth for you is completely aligned with your speculator role.
I'm a seeker.
Yeah. And so if you're going to be the person writing the story, because you're always writing it in your own mind.
Right.
What two ways do you see it? Because you know how there's from this spectrum to this spectrum. What are the ways that you could see it going?
Oh, you mean like the future?
Going forward, yeah.
I've been telling
if you don't mind.
I've been telling everybody for a long time. Before Trump lost the election, I had a weird dream. It's like become very famous on my channel, where I had a dream where there was a coffin and I was carrying Trump in a coffin and he was dancing on my side. It was very weird. And I titled the video, Fatal Head Wound Revealed, something like that. Will they fake it? I put actually on the thumbnail. And then I started telling everybody not to buy into it because I noticed online that they were showing massive crowds for Trump. Mm-hmm. And then they were like making fun of Biden. You'd see like people in circles. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I think he's going to lose. I started telling everybody because they're showing everybody that he's going to win with a landslide. Mm-hmm. What if it's too close? So what I did was I took to Twitter that day, the day of the election, and I put two scenarios. I said, this is what kind of I hope happens, but this would be so much worse and I hope doesn't happen.
Right.
Which is
what happened.
Looks like this, he cries foul. Right. Then I started telling everybody he's laughing and dancing. So it could mean one of two things. I told everybody he's going to be back. He's going to be bigger than ever. I said, don't worry about him. When he was cut off the platforms, I said, he'll just buy a platform. I said, everybody thinks that this is like Tucker was fired. Oh, I'm sorry. Now he's bigger than ever.
Right.
These are not people that are really, they don't seem to be being beaten down by the system. No. They seem to be playing some sort of, pantomime where they're trying to get everybody to buy into the story. And then they're being elevated even more. So I believe that we're going to enter into a very, very big technological dictatorship. And it's going to happen and there's nothing we can do about it. And, if people don't, and once again, God is in control, right? Just as God brought Nebuchadnezzar against Egypt. Mm-hmm. Here's the story of Nebuchadnezzar and Trump, by the way, right? And Cyrus, because Cyrus comes in after Nebuchadnezzar, turns into a beast of the field after he loses everything. Mm-hmm. I told everybody, I told him, I said, hey, you're going to lose everything. I said, you're telling everybody how great you are. Cut it out. I did a whole thing about Daniel, and I taught on the chapter where I said it would be like me. Like I kind of liked the character of Trump. I was in his presence twice.
Right.
Twice. I produced him twice. He was good friends with Vince McMahon, my old boss. So he lost everything, and now we have all this stuff. It's like, and it's like one thing after the mugshot was Blue Steel from Zoolander. Mm-hmm. And he was in the movie Zoolander 17 seconds from the movie began. Yep. I mean, it's just the whole thing is like, this is some great big movie. And where's it going?
Soap opera.
It's going there. It's going to, but it's also going to go to a place where people that are corrupt they're going to be held to account. This is going to be a tough time for a lot of people, but those that are trusting God, it's going to imagine when Israel was cast out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. Imagine right now, me being told I got to get the hell out of New York. Right. I have my house here. I got my stuff. It's like, what am I going to do? That would be devastating.
Right.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. That's it. We had the flood, you know,
That old saying, travel light, we all need to figure out how to do it.
we do.
I don't
Yeah,
need
we
my
do.
two moving vans every time I move, right?
My,
So
my my wife and I would need it as well.
yeah, and so okay, this gentleman said this, and I would like to respond to it, and I want to hear what your response is as well. You
Sure.
guys are expecting way too much out of these TV hosts. They're just people with a platform. Why can't the interview? Why can't they just interview these people? Doesn't mean that they support them. And
Mhm.
I would say what he started out saying is, you guys expect way too much. I would say, I believe the standards become so low that we're all accepting this.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, there
and
was no
so I would
journalistic
love to hear what
integrity.
you think though.
There was no journalistic integrity in what Tucker said. I mean, he was laughing and having a good old time, and he made him look and sound like a hero. Here's the thing, right? The Matrix, everything's the Matrix. The Matrix is coming against him. The Matrix, Alex Jones, he did a video right after with Russell where he says the Matrix is coming after Russell Brand. It's like I'm starting to think that's the code for we're messing with you. We're messing with you. I don't know. Maybe
And
they're
so
all
do you
sincere.
think you hold Tucker to a higher, like more news standard? Because you wouldn't mind if some other huge channel had him on, right?
I would mind anytime a
A
chant like
large
I had a
channel.
problem. Yeah, I had a problem when Candace was making him look good too, because it's like these
So
are
to
your
you, it's
heroes.
how they did it.
Well, yeah, no, it's not about not. I mean, listen, I wouldn't have a problem with you interviewing anybody,
Got it.
especially if you're trying to lead them to a life of repentance and hope, and especially if they are repentant and hopeful. Because if say if Tate came on his show and expressed remorse, look, I made a mistake. It's like I probably shouldn't have had a webcam business where I was
I quit
paying.
it
Yeah,
three
I mean,
years ago, whatever it
like
was. Yeah.
he says he reads the Quran. He says that he's a Muslim. I was like, my neighbor is a devout Muslim. He
Mhm.
he's smoking cigars and drinking and doing. He's not a man of any faith as far as I'm concerned. But that's going to be the new hot. Oh, that's another thing, by the way.
I think
That's
he
going to
did it
be
to
the
protect himself, but I could be wrong.
well, no, I agree with you, but that's also going to be the push. You're going to see, like, in my opinion, you're going to see
100% agree.
a push towards Islam and
Islam, I agree.
a push towards Judaism kind of combined together.
Mhm.
And you're going to, because that's what's happening.
Right,
And I got to tell you something, once again, if anything is happening, who ultimately is in charge of it?
right, right.
There's a reason God's doing it. I don't know why. But for whatever reason, maybe right now, the people have gotten so corrupt that a heavier hand is needed. I'm not saying that it's right to be, governing in a dictator. Like, Trump was just saying how G's brilliant. He locked down like billion people. He's brilliant. I'm not going to say that that's a good thing, but I'm also understanding that nothing happens. The Lord, create good. I create chaos and evil. The Lord does this. This is in the
Right.
scriptures.
Absolutely. That's the only thing we should be fearing.
Right. And if you do, and it is a fearful thing to be in the hand of the Lord. And I mean, I know I just get by. I have debt. YouTube's been very difficult.
100% same.
I'm a person that has a problem asking for help.
Right.
Because I feel like but
Which
I
I'm glad you
understand.
said that. Anyone that's here or visits, please go follow Jacob.
Oh, Jacob Israel, yes,
Yes, Jacob Israel. And
on
that's it,
YouTube.
right? There's no number or anything
No,
like that.
just on YouTube. If you go to
Okay.
YouTube and you type in Jacob Israel, please do subscribe, share, and then everything else you'll learn from. I really would appreciate it. I'd like to get to know people.
Yeah.
I'm definitely different, but I give all the elements of everything else people are watching. Just do it I do it in a more of a, I call it like a poetic way. I love poetry. So I try to do things with like music, and I try to just bring people into to a song,
Yeah.
which is, and I have a t-shirt called I Am a Witness 1111. I
Hmm.
tell people what a witness is. A witness is something or someone that sees like an accident. I witnessed an accident. So
Sure.
now I'm going to tell people what I witnessed. So like when I hear, the news coming out, I'm like, I'm starting to see this. So I'm like, this is what I'm witnessing. I
Right.
don't know if it's going to happen that way. I don't know where it's going to go, but I definitely am blown away by how,
Yeah.
just on the money things have been lately. It's been very, very rewarding.
It's incredible. That's why I call you a spiritual wildcatter.
Speculator is that's what I say. I'm a speculator.
Yeah.
And a speculator is just somebody who forecasts. Like if
Right.
this was a sports show, I would say, Joey
So and
had
so's gonna win.
yeah,
Yeah.
he had an accident with his, and this guy over here is going through trouble with his wife, and you look at everything
Mhm.
and you speculate, So, and that's what Jesus told us to do. He says you could look at the weather
Yeah.
and you could say it's going to be sunny tomorrow or it's going to be crappy weather tomorrow, but you don't see the signs of the times. I mean, my goodness, the signs are everywhere.
Yes.
And it's leading.
Well, that's because God is
back.
everywhere. People
Right.
forget it. And not only is he omnipresent, he's omnipotent.
Right.
Like, please don't forget that every single atom. That's mind blowing to me. So, somebody said something on here I'd love for your comment on. The heart of a man has gone cold. That happened overnight in a significant way. Since then, I'm noticing people not only don't want truth, but respond to truths in a very resentful way. Or in a resentful way. I added the very, sorry.
I mean, Jesus
There I
said
am
it.
lying.
He said very clearly, he said, I send you out as sheep among wolves. He said, they're going to hate you, for my name's sake. Now that a lot of people don't even know what my name's sake means. I could wear a shirt that says Jesus. People could hate me. That's what they think it means. It's not what it means. The word name means the nature of.
The nature of.
It covers
Absolutely.
the
I share that all the
universal.
time.
Right. So my namesake. So they'll hate you for my nature, which is love, which is meekness, which is patience, which is long suffering. They're going to hate that because they don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have that. Now I'm going to tell you something else, because there is power in trying your best to live a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Put the best foot forward, and you really, when you make a mistake, you apologize and you make it right. You do unto others as you want done unto yourself. There's power in that. When you're not out to screw people over or manipulate, when you're not stealing, I sleep okay at night. I get a lot of I've gotten like threats. People have like legitimately said horrible, scary things to me, and I always say,
they don't scare me at all.
I say to them, well, I do tell them, I say, it wouldn't be a good thing for you. Not because,
that's so true.
Not because
God's not going to allow that.
Yeah, I mean, what God allowed, God allows.
Reap what you sow, baby. You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow, and it's like, and I can't live in fear. And I used to be scared all the time. I'm still fearful over little things. I'm still fearful, like tomorrow they're going to go like this. And my channel is filled with such love. But if you listen to it, it's filled with a lot of like heavy truth, and it wakes people up to a lot of lies. And but ultimately, isn't that what God wants?
Yes. Yes.
So I mean, it's all working together for the good. That's what I believe.
Yes. That is awesome. And I think your take on the technocracy, did I say that right? Technocracy.
Yeah, technocracy. Yeah. I mean, look, everything's going to be
100%.
They want smart cities. They want people, and all it takes is taxes get too much, things get too expensive. You can't keep your house anymore. Don't worry. We just built this 15-minute city. Just
and it's free.
It's free
until you all get there, and then it won't be free anymore.
That sounds a lot like a ghetto. That sounds like one of the ghettos.
Yeah.
But when you have like Parliament celebrating people that put people in ghettos.
Was that not bizarre?
Not bizarre. Like, God reveals it. If they be corrupt, the corruption is coming, it's bubbling. God is showing the world just how evil these people are. And it's disgusting to me that they haven't been held accountable, but they're going to be. I think they're going to be. They're going to be.
I would love your take on turn the other cheek, because what you were saying earlier about we're done turning the other cheek. And I agree with you, but I want to hear what your real take is on how Christ intended that in your mind, in your own testimony.
It's interesting because I actually am dealing with something, like I've always been somebody that I don't sue. I don't, because I came from a very poor family, and I just, if I'm wronged, I just take it on the cheek and I usually walk away. And that's been my MO for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a situation now where someone has done something, and they did a they did a Zoom call with me, and the whole thing, they knew that it was being recorded. And I'll just say that the publishing industry is, they do, I mean, horrible what they do, horrible. And so I'm actually considering, I'm like, Lord, I actually even called the lawyer today because they want me to sign now a paper. I paid these people to publish my book.
They want you
Yeah,
to
this is like, I paid
sign
these.
it later. I had somebody could try and do that to me. I just said nope, not signing it.
Well, no, it's a lot worse than it seems. But
Okay.
in the grand scheme of things, because it's just so corrupt.
Right.
And I came to terms with, I said, hey, you've taken all this. Let's just call it a day, and we'll move forward, and like positive vibes. But that's not enough because of their fear, because they did something wrong to me, and they know that it's can harm them. Like if I was the kind of person to do that, even though I said, listen, I just want to move forward. But
right.
So what I'm saying,
they think it'll come back on them because they would do it.
Right. So the question then becomes, do I just turn the other cheek? That's literally what I'm doing today, where, my wife is like, this is your life's work.
Right.
This is the thing that is like you're most passionate about, and it's
so
like,
if
you
it
always
was
get taken
me,
advantage of.
even though you didn't ask, I would go ahead. I also think turning the other cheek is not taking it on yourself,
Right.
but handing it off to a lawyer.
Ooh,
And letting
I like
them,
that. I'll take that one.
And letting God and the lawyer and the judge handle it.
Yeah.
And having faith that it'll get done the way it needs to get done. I mean, sometimes we have to do business.
Well, it's just these giants, these corporate giants, they do things, and it happens to a lot of, I don't know if there are authors that are listening. They take advantage of independent authors. They just do. They take advantage of, in the music industry. They just do.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, could you imagine something that you create and then you pay someone to, and then for whatever reason, the giants of the world, they, and I'm not saying who's to blame here, but it's, so the question becomes, turning the other cheek for me has always been like, I'm not going to try to harm you.
Right.
I want, and I'm just going to let God handle it. I'm going to let God handle it. If you're going to smack me in the face, like literally on my property, I'm going to defend myself. Okay.
Right. 100%.
But if you're going to like say something terrible about me or whatever, I'm not going to, I've had so many people do so wrong, steal from me, horrible things. What do? I leave it up to God, and they end up in trouble. I
had like 8 years ago, I had someone really try to block me in business, like really try. I mean, they had the power.
Right.
And they were in front of the stairs, and right, like 2 steps up was something that was supposed to happen.
Right.
God just opened an elevator. Someone else just swooped in and
there
was
you
like,
go.
here's the back door. Like, come on. And I didn't even have to go through the stairs. It was awesome. And so, and we don't know what day that's going to happen. It's the same thing with like, you don't know what day Danielle's going to show up and you're going to fall in love. And you don't know what day, it all just fixes itself. Yeah.
If you knew, it would be easier. Like, I'm so content and happy in my life. And, but it was so, I mean, I had like two children, and I was sick just out of the hospital in a small little apartment, raising these two. I didn't know I could, I just got out of ICU. Who knows? A 2-year-old and a 4-year-old in tow, it was, but here I am now, and it's like,
so perfect.
God is good, It would be
He
nice if
uses
we knew the
everything.
end from the beginning, but he does. So that works.
Well, thank you for being a speculator, and thank you for being also entertaining as you do
Appreciate
so.
it. Thank you.
And it allows for a lot of hope and a lot of smiles, which I think is really, really important. And then too, I mean, I just appreciate your ability to see through things so quickly. It's
You do that
important.
too, though. You do that too.
I've gotten really good at it in
You're very savvy.
the last 3 years. I was so naive for so many years. I just trusted everybody and believed that they only had the best in them, and
Right.
I was lying to myself in some way. And that's the piece. I think that as we release that victim and we just trust God, I'm not going to be a victim here. I'm going to let it go.
Yeah.
It completely disappears.
I feel like, I guess we can end on this. This is really a positive thing.
Good. Let's do it.
Do you have like Roku or anything? You have Roku? You know what Roku is, like a streaming service or whatever? So
Oh
I have
yeah,
a
no,
Roku.
I don't have that.
Okay, so I have Roku, and they have like, the screen that kind of keeps moving if your TV's on, so it doesn't freeze the frame.
Sure.
And I noticed a couple of days ago, because I had been praying, I said, Lord, I feel like, when Israel left Egypt, they took the wealth of the Egyptians with them. God blessed them, right?
Mhm.
Right. I feel like that's the moment that's coming for us now.
nice.
Like we've been slave. I feel like the Jubilee's on its way. And on the Roku, there was like a carnival ship with the sign
awesome.
Jubilee. And I said, I think it's on its way.
I love when it happens that instantaneously. I can't
like when you're
say
thinking
the
about it, then
story,
there it
but
is.
I literally was talking to my daughter about some major decision in my life, and I started reading the Bible, and the first verse, it had the exact words that were just like, I bet they're only in the Bible twice. And
Right.
so it was like, okay, God, I like that one. That was fun. It happened immediately. Well,
That's
thank you,
so
thank you,
cool.
thank you for being
Thank you.
here. Thank you for sharing how you discern. Thank you for lifting people up. And I do think that that comes back to the final thing is to not be afraid, to look at what people's intentions are. Are they to attack and to critique and to, or are they to exalt and pick people up and be more single-minded in Christ? So thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for being here. And please follow Jacob. He's also on Twitter. It's Jacob Israel 71. Anywhere else?
That's it. Well, my website too, jacobisrael.com, and my novel, which is it's available. You can get it anywhere. It's called The Calling. But just, YouTube would be great, and Twitter would be great, because then I get to interact with y'all.
Okay. And so
thank you for having me
right now,
really...
go straight to it, guys. All right. Bye, Jacob. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.